Turn to page 544 for the Torah reading. Just a quick word about it. Have you ever heard the term scapegoat? Anyone ever heard the term scapegoat before? I'm sure we've used it, heard it. It comes from this Torah portion. The idea is that Aaron would take two goats, and he would place the sins of the community on one, the sins of his family and himself on another. One of them he would bring to the temple to sacrifice, and the other one he would send off into the desert. Both of those goats are scapegoats. They are literally scapegoats. That's exactly where this idea comes from. Now, what's more important about that, and just a little word just to get you sort of into the Torah reading, is that there are two goats. It's not like Passover where you buy one goat. There's actually two goats. And the two goats are paired, but they're not paired equally. They're called uneven pairs. One goat is brought to God, and one goat is thrown out into the desert, cast off into the desert. That model exists all over the Torah. I'll give you two examples. There are two brothers. One of them is a shepherd, and one of them is a farmer. They bring sacrifices to God. One of them is accepted, and the other is not, and one brother kills the other. Cain and Abel, the story. A pair, paired unevenly, and one of them is brought to God, and one of them is not. I'll give you another example. Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac is brought up to the mountain to be sacrificed to God by Abraham. We read that last week. Ishmael is sent out into the desert, both blessed by God, by the way. These two goats. There's a ceremony called Sota, which is about fidelity in the marriage room, and the way the ceremony works is it takes two turtle doves. one which is sacrificed to God, and the other one which is sent free into the desert. This model of uneven pairs is all over the Torah. And if you begin to look at the Torah through that lens, you'll see them come up over and over and over and over again. What's the lesson, though? What's really the lesson? It's not that one is better or worse than the other. I want to be very clear about that. In none of the cases, even in Cain and Abel, it's not that Abel is somehow better than Cain. That was Cain's fatal error, is that he thought that Abel was actually better than he was. But from God's perspective, that's not true. One of them is brought in, and one of them is put out. But the one that is put out isn't necessarily the evil one, or the bad one, or the dirty one, or the sinful one. It is the one that is on the outside, and one is on the inside. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because on a day like today, when we take all the symbols of our community, all the symbols of our world, all the symbols of Jewish faith, and we bring them inside, into our hearts, we have to bring this one in too. What part of you do you want to bring close today? And what part of you do you want to push out today? What part of you do you want to lift up today? And what part of you do you want to cast out today? And that it's not that the part that you cast out is evil. It's not that the part that you cast out is dirty or impure. It's part of who you are. It's part of the same cloth of who you are. And that both chambers, in and out, it's part of what it means to be a full human being. So this Torah reading is a symbolic representation of what happens inside of a soul on Yom Kippur. We bring stuff in and we push stuff out. The first Aliyah begins on page 544.
ויעזוב, יגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו, ונאמר אמן. הכל על תורת תורה יעמדו, דוד בן ראובן הכהן ועשו ואשתו פסל בת הרשל ודבורה, ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו, ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. וידבר אדוני אל משה אחרי מות שני בני אחרון בקרבתם לפני אדוני ויאמרתו ויאמר אדוני אל משה דבר אל אחרון אחיך ואל יבוא בכל עת אל הקודש מבית לפרוכת על פני הכפורת אשר על אחרון ולא ימות כי בענן ארע לכפורת בזאת יבוא אחרון אל הקודש בפר בן בקר לחטות ועיל לעילה.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher natan lanu Torat Emet v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
יעמדו אברהם דוד ובנימין הלוי ובתיה ואשתו חיה בת דוד הלוי ורזל לעלייה השנייה.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ketonet bad kodesh yilbash, umichnasei vad iyu al besaro, uvavnet bad yachgor, uvmitznefet bad yitznof, bigdei kodesh hem, verachatz bamayim, et besaro ulvesham, umet adat bnei Yisrael yikach, שני שעירי עזים לחטאת, ועיל אחד לעולה, ויקריב אהרון את פר החטאת אשר לו, וכיפר בעדו ובעד ביתו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natav b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
יעמדו יצחק בן משה וחנה וחיה בת צבי ורבקה לעלייה השלישית. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ולקח את שני אסירים והעמיד אותם לפני אדוני פתח אוהל מועד, ונתן אהרון על שני אסירים גורלות, גורל אחד לאדוני וגורל אחד לעזאזל. והקריב אהרון את השעיר אשר עלה עליו הגורל אדוני, ועשהו חטאת, והשעיר אשר עלה עליו הגורל לעזאזל יעמד חי לפני אדוני לכפר עליו, לשלח אותו לעזאזל המדברה. והקריב אהרון את פר החטאת אשר לו, וכיפר בעדו ובעד ביתו, ושחט את פר החטאת אשר לו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
יעמדו זושר בן יוסל ושרה ורות בת אברהם ושרה לעלייה הרביעית. You find the עלייה הרביעית, page 546, top of the page. Here.
ברכו את אדוני מבורך. ברוך אדוני מבורך מעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ולקח מלוא המחתה גחלי אש מעל המזבח מלפני אדוני, מלוא כפניו כתורת סמים דקה, והביא מבית לפרוכת, ונתן את הכתורת על האש לפני אדוני, וכיסה ענן הכתורת את הכפורת אשר על עדות ולא ימות. ולקח מדם הפר ויזע באצבעו על פני הכפורת קדמה, ולפני הכפורת ייזע 7 פעמים מן הדם באצבעו.
ושחט את שעיר החטאת אשר לעם והביא את דמו אל מבית לפרוכת ועשה את דמו כאשר עשה לדם הפר והיזה אותו על הכפורת ולפני הכפורת וכיפר על הקודש מטומאות בני ישראל ומפשעיהם לכל הטותם וכן יעשה לאוהל מועד השוכן איתם בתוך תומותם וכל אדם לא יהיה באוהל מועד בבוא לכפר בקודש עד צאתו וכיפר בעדו ובעד ביתו ועד כל קהל ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam notav v'zochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
יעמוד ראובן לב בן שמואל וג'ס על העלייה החמישית. קורנר בטלי. take a deep breath and we start back.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch
Adonai
Baruch li'olam v'ed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'atzah el hamizbeach asher lifnei Adonai v'kiper alav v'lachach midam hapar umitam hasahir v'natan al karnot hamizbeach saviv v'hisah alav min adam ve'etzba'o 7 pa'amim v'tiharo v'kitsho mitumo b'nei Yisrael v'kilah mikaperet hakodesh v'et doel moed v'et hamizbeach v'hikriv et asahir echai v'samach Aharon et shtei yadav al rosh hasahir achai v'hitvadah alav et kol avonot b'nei Yisrael v'et kol pishehem lekol atotam v'natan notam al rosh hasahir v'shilach ve'ad ishiti amidbara v'nasaha aser alav et kol avonotam el eretz gezerah v'shilach et asahir b'midbar uva'aharon el ohel moed ufashat et bigdei abad asher lavash bevo el hakodesh v'nicham sham v'rachat et besaro b'mayim b'makom kadosh v'lavash et begadav ve'yatzah ve'asa dolataho ve'adolatam v'kiper ba'ado uvadam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher notan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam notav b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
אמן. יעמוד ינקה ברב אהרון וליפקה לעלייה השישית
Baruch Hu Adonai Amborach.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Amborach Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher B'chabanu Mikol Ha'amim V'nasal Lanu Es Toroto. Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen. Vet chelev hachatat yaktir hamizbecha ve'am shaleach et ha'sa'ir la'azazel yechabes begadav ve'rachatz et besaro b'mayim ve'acharechen yavo el hamachane vet par hachatat vet Seir hachatat asher huva et amam lechaper bakodesh yotzi el michutz lamachaneh vesarfu vaesh et orotam vet basaram vet pirsham veasoref otam yechabes begadav verachatz et basaro b'mayim veacharechen yavo El hamachane, vaita lachem lechukat olam, b'chodesh hashvi, be'asor lachodesh, te'anu et nafshotechem, v'chol melacha lo tasu ha'ezrach, ve'hager hagar betochechem. Ki vayom hazeh yechaper alechem letaher etchem mikol chatotechem lifnei Adonai titaru.
ברוך אתה.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Nosalam Torah Shemes Pe'elam Tavasachenu Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen. If you can, move to my side. If not, you can sit down. יעמדו ארי שלמה בן ישראל ודינה ואשתו רחל בת דניאל ויונית לעלייה השביעית.
Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shebachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Shabbat, Shabbaton hilachem, ve'initem et nafshotechem, chukat olam, ve'chiper hakohen, asher imshach oto, v'asher yimalech et yado, lechachen tachat aviv, v'lavash et bigdei abad, bigdei hakodesh, v'chiper et mikdash hakodesh, v'et ohel moed, v'et hamizbeach yechaper, v'al hakohanim, v'al kol hakahal yechaper, v'aytazod lachem, lechukat olam, lechaper, al b'nei Yisrael mikol hatotam, achat b'shana, Vayash kasher tziva Adonai et Moshe.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam natav b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen. We rise together on page 550.
חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייך יומי ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קר, ויאמרו אמן, יש מרבה מבורך, לעולם ולעול מעולמיה יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילה ולעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחה ונחמה דמירן לעול ויאמרו יעמדו המגביה והגוללת לספר ראשון, וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על יד ויד.
You may be seated. The seventh aliyah, or the maftir aliyah, sorry, is on page 552.
Here, and then it goes up there.
תעמוד חנה מרים בת יהודה ושושנה מפטירה חזקי חזקי
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavarach.
ברוך
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Uve'asor lahodesh hashvi hazeh mikra kodesh hiye lachem v'initem et nafshotehem kol melacha lo tasu v'ikravtem ola ladonai reach nikoach par ben bakar ehad ayil ehad kvasim b'nei shana shiva temimim iyu lahem umin hatam solet belula bashamen shlosha esronim lapar shnei esronim la'ayil ha'echad isaron isaron lakeves ha'echad leshivat hakvasim seir izim echad chatat milvat hatata kippurim ve'olat hatamid umin hatat venizkehem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
אמן. יעמדו המגביה והגוללת לספר שני.
We rise as we lift and bind the second Sefer Torah together.
וזאת התורה אשר שמה משה לפני בני ישראל על יד אדוני ביד
You may be seated. The Haftarah is found on page 554. It's the 57th and 58th chapter of Isaiah. We're talking about these uneven pairs, the scapegoat, Cain and Abel, Isaac, Ishmael. Here, even Yom Kippur shows us an uneven pair. Here, on this day of praying and fasting and reflection, in the middle of the service is a prophet who comes and says, do not pray, do not fast, do not reflect, but do acts of kindness and acts of justice. Therein lies the paradox of these uneven pairs. So it's not just a physical symbol through animals or stories. It is in this holiday itself that at the centerpiece of the holiday, we are paired with ourselves inside here, inside our hearts, inside the synagogue, and outside in the world. The Haftarah begins on page 554.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim, v'ratza v'divreihem v'nemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'Torah, uv'Moshe avdo, uv'Yisrael amo, uv'nevi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Ve'amar solu solu panu darech, harimu michshol miderech ami, ki cho amar ram v'nisa, shochenad v'kadosh shemo, marom v'kadosh eshkon, v'yatakash baruach, lachayot ruach shefalim, ulachayot lev nitkaim. Ki lo le'olam ariv, velo lanetzach ektov, ki ruach milefanai atov, uneshamot ani asiti. Ba'avam bitz'o, katzafti v'yakehu hastir v'ektov, v'yelech shovav b'derech libo. Drachav ra'iti v'yarpa'ehu, v'yanchehu, v'yashalem nechumim, lo v'la'avelav. Boreh niv sfatayim, shalom shalom, l'rachok v'lekarov, amar Adonai urfativ. V'harishaim kayam nigrash, ki hashket lo, yuchal v'yigreshu memav refesh v'tid. Ein shalom amar Elohai larishaim, kra v'garon al tachshoch, kashofar harem kolecha, v'haged lami pisham, ulevet Yaakov chatotam. V'oti yom yom yidreshun, v'dat deracha yechpatzun, kegoy asher tzedaka asa, umishpat Elohav lo azav, yishaluni mishpatei tzedek, kirvat Elohim yechpatzun. Lama tzamnu v'lo ra'ita, ininu nafshenu v'lo teda. Hein b'yom tzomchem timtzu chefetz, v'chol atzvechem tingoshu. Hein l'riv u'matzah tatzumu, u'lehakot begrof resha. Lo tatzumu chayom la'ashmiya b'marom kolchem. Hachazeh yeh tzom efcharehu, yom anot adam nafsho, halachov kagmon rosho, v'sak ve'efer yatzia, halazet tikratzom ve'yom ratzon ladonai. Halazeh tzom efcharehu, pateach chatzubot resha, hater agudot motah, v'shalach ritzutzim chofshim, v'chol motah tenateku. Halo paros l'ra'ev lachmecha, v'aniim merudim tavivayit, ki tir'eh aram b'chisito, umibsarcha lo titalam. Az yebaka kashachar orecha, ve'aruchatcha mehera titzmach, ve'halach lefanecha tzidkecha, kevod Adonai ya'asfecha. Az tikra v'Adonai yaneh tishava, ve'yomar hineni, im tasir tochacha motah, shalach etzba v'daber aven, v'tafek l'ra'ev nafshecha, v'nefesh na'ana, תשביע בזרח בחושך אורך והפעלתך כצהריים. ונכך אדוני תמיד, והשביע בצחצחות נפשך ועצמותיך יחליץ, והיית כגן רבה כמוצא מים אשר לא יכזבו מימיו, ובנו ממך חרבות עולם, מוסדי דור ודור תקומם, וקורא לך גודר פרץ משובב נתיבות לשבת. אם תשיב משבת רגליך עשות חפציך ביום קודשי, וקראת לשבת עונג לקדוש אדוני מכובד, וכיבדתו מעשות דרכיך, ממצוא חפציך ודבר דבר. אז תתענג על אדוני, והרחבתיך על במטה הארץ, ואכלתיך נחלת יעקב אביך, כי פי אדוני דיבר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודברך מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ברחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון, כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה ועל יום הכיפורים הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה, למנוחה, למחילה, לסליחה, לכפרה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מוחל וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש השבת. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש השבת. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. ביום הכיפורים.
Amen. Esher Koach Janice for reading Haftarah, beautiful Haftarah, and Yashar Koach to our Torah readers, including Alexis Berkowitz, Eliana Robin, Jack Barak, Maya Robin, Steve Victor, Cheryl Gillis, Kyla Newmark, Eric Iskin, and Nancy Gorman, and Yashar Koach to everyone who helped lead us earlier this morning. We're going to continue now with another one of our beautiful teenagers on page 582, Words of Ashrei.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yachalucha sela.
Ashrei am shekach Elohu, Ashrei am shadonai Eloha.
Tehila leDavid, aromim chalo hayamelech, vavarcha shimcha leolam va'ed. Gadol Adonai umhulal me'od, ve'li gdulato ein cheker. Hadar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha. Zecher rav tuvcha yabiu, v'tzidkatcha yeraninu. Tov Adonai lekol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
V'chasidecha yevarchucha.
Kevod malchutcha yomeru, ugvuratcha yedaberu.
Lehochia וכבוד אדר מלכותו.
Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, memshaltecha v'chol dor v'ador.
וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Einei kol elecha yeseberu, ve'ata noten lechem et ochlam be'ito. Tzadik Adonai bechol derachav, v'chasid mechol ma'asav. Retzon yerav yaseh, ve'et shavatam yishma ve'yoshiem.
שוב.
Teilat Adonai yedaber pi, v'yivarech kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed, v'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata ve'ad olam, hallelujah.
Wow, Hannah, very nicely done. Page 584. I ask the congregation to please rise while we return the Sifrei Torah to the Arona Kodesh.
יחדנו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו הארץ בשמיים, וירד קרב יעמוד. תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל. Hallelujah.
Be seated for just a moment. We have this beautiful poetry booklet. Looks like this. I happen to love it because I'm the one who edited it. So if there's any problems, you just write, to efeinstein@vbs.org. I'm sure it should be fine. There's a wonderful story here on the 6th page. You can read it, but I'm just going to tell it to get us set for Musaf. The Dubliner Magi tells this beautiful story about a king who had a beautiful collection of jewels, in particular, a big, beautiful diamond. He loved the diamond so much that he would go every day to look at this diamond, to touch it, to polish it, to make it clean and beautiful. And then one night, when he was holding this crystal diamond, it fell out of his hands and rolled onto the hard floor, and it cracked. And it became dark, because the cracks make the diamonds go dark. And this long, thin crack formed, and the king was horrified. He didn't know what to do. He had this very precious thing, this thing that he loved so much. He didn't know what to do, so he called all of the jewelers in the realm to try to see if they can get rid of the crack. One after another, the jewelers would come up, they'd put their little eyeglass in, and they would look at the diamond and say, "There's nothing we can do. The crack is too deep. The fissures are too great. There's nothing we can do." Until finally one jeweler, one craftsman said, "I can take it, but I need it for a whole week." And so he gives reluctantly this diamond to this little craftsman, this little jeweler. And a week later, he comes back. And the king asks, "Did you fix the diamond? Did you fix it? Did you make it beautiful?" And he said, the jeweler said, "I did, but not in the way you think. It doesn't look like it did before. You cannot go back in time and erase the crack. But what I did is I made it look perfect." And the king said, "How?" And the jeweler holds up the diamond, and he looks at the crack, which is still there, and he sees that the jeweler had engraved leaves along the crack, on the sides of the crack. And on the very top of the crack, the jeweler had engraved a beautiful, perfect rose. And the jeweler turns to the king and says, "You can't fix the cracks. It's not possible to go back in time and to make something perfect like it was, but you can take the thing in front of you and try to perfect it again through the cracks." That's the lesson for today. As we begin this Musaf service, we look at our life. We look at the year that was, the mistakes that we've made, the promises that we meant to keep and didn't, the appointments that we said we would show up to and didn't, and the promises even in the year to come, where we know that we won't keep them, the oaths that we will make, that we will break. We look at all of these things and know that they are cracks on us, they are break us, they are imperfections of who we are. But we stand and we sit and we pray on this beautiful day, not to repair the cracks, but to live life through them, to make the life that we have set in front of us beautiful, even though each one of us has our own imperfections. We begin the Musaf service now with the Chatzi Kaddish and the silent Amidah. I ask the congregation to please rise on page 596.
Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Biolma, Divera, Yamelich
silent Amidah begins on page 598. It's the first opportunity this morning for most of us to pray quietly, to meditate, to reflect on the year that was, to connect to your inner soul and to God, to lay bare the sins of this past year. On page 598 through page 609, a few moments of quiet, the silent Amidah, at the conclusion of which you may be seated.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cantor Rosberg. Welcome to our community. Nice to have you. Why don't you take 1 minute. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so that we know who's going to be leading us on this Musaf journey?
I am very privileged to have entered this very, very sacred calling. It was not my original plan, but I'm originally from New York, been living in San Francisco for 30 years.
We won't hold that against you.
Thank you, thank you. Served Congregation Emmanuel, a Reformed congregation, for 28 years, and I retired 2 years ago, and obviously that's not going very well. So I'm very, very, very pleased to be here. I grew up in an Orthodox shul, so this feels like my childhood again. It feels wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. There once was there's a story about a king who was an amazing king. He was compassionate and wise and empathic and just. But at the end of his days, people were waiting to see who would take over for him, who would become the king in his place. Would it be a general? Would it be a child, one of his children? Would it be a close advisor? Well, to keep the contenders from fighting with each other over the throne, the king put his instructions in a letter and sealed it. And he said it would only be opened on the day of his death. That named person would succeed him and become the new king. And then all the eyes of the kingdom turned upon him on his deathbed, and as he passed away, he handed the letter to the prime minister. And after the mourning was over and the funeral was over, the prime minister came into the throne room filled with people, and he opened the letter to see who was going to be the new king. Is it going to be the general? Is it going to be the advisor? Perhaps his children? And as he opened the letter, he read, almost in dismay, that the king had chosen the jester. The jester would be crowned king. Everyone asks this question: what is the jester doing becoming king? They must have thought it was a joke. How could a fool become a king? This is not a political speech. I don't want you to think that I'm talking politics. This is a real story. This is the king's instructions. So the jester was brought before the royal court, and the royal retainers removed the jester's clothes and put on the robes and the crown of a king. And they had a coronation. Now at first, as you can imagine, it was a little awkward. Here is this person pretending to be the king. He didn't know what it meant to be the king. But over time, he learned what he needed to do. And he became compassionate and empathic and just. In fact, he became one of the best kings that ever ruled over the kingdom because he knew what was in the hearts of people. He could tell. That's what having a sense of humor is all about, is knowing what lurks in the corners of people's minds and hearts. And to the amazement of everyone, the jester became one of the greatest kings. Now, every day the jester would disappear for a couple of hours. Every single day he would retreat to a room in the back of the castle. Nobody knew where he went. He would spend an hour or so there, and then he would come back out, and he would then become the king. He would just come out, and he would be this perfect king. This advisor, this ambassador from far off, began to follow him. They wanted to see who he was. Why is this king spending an hour a day in this back room? So he followed him once, and as the king closed the door behind him and locked the door, the ambassador peered through the keyhole, and he saw the king and his greatest secret. For an hour a day, the king would take off his crown and his robes. He would open the closet and take out his jester robes, and he would put on his jester hat, and he would sing and dance the jester song. He would shake his jester wand with the bells and tell old and funny jokes. Then he would stand in front of the mirror and say, "You're no king. You're simply a fool. This is you. This is me. This is us. Never forget who you are. You may look and sound and act like a king, but you're only a jester. You're only a fool. You're only just a jester pretending to be the king. Never, ever forget who you are." Every one of us, every single one of us is a jester king. Every one of us plays a role in life. Every one of us wants to be the king or queen of her castle or his castle. Every one of us tries to take on a role in life that might seem big and daunting. Every one of us puts on airs. Every one of us presents an image to everyone else in our family, everyone else in our business, everyone in our lives. Except for today. Today, on this holiest day of the year, we retreat to this beautiful room, and we take off the robes of our own kingship, take off our own crowns of our ego, of our haughtiness, of our projected image of the world, and we realize we are all just fools pretending to be kings. We tear down ourselves, take off our shells, remove our costumes, strip us down to just what we have: our bodies, ourselves, our own foolish ways. This is you. This is me. This is us. Never forget who you are. Musaf Amidah begins in this place, a place that strips down who we are to our bare bones, to just saying, "Here I am." Hineni. Here I am, ready, with nothing in my hands. Here I am, with nothing before me and nothing behind me but my physical self in humility, quietude, and gratitude. Here I am, Hineni. Let us begin. Whatever work we can do, we should never forget who we are. On page 608, beginning of the Musaf Amidah, the Chazan's prayer, the prayer of humility, the words of Hineni.
הנני העוני ממעש, נרעש ונבחר, מפחד יושב תהילות ישראל. באתי לעמוד ולהתחנן לפניך, הרמך ישראל, אשר שלחוני. אף על פי שאיני חדאי והגון לכך, לכן אבקש ממך, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, ולבקש רחמים עליי. Adonai Elohei Avraham, Yitzchak, ויעקב. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, אשר אהיה, שתבוא תפילתי לפני חזי כבודך בעבור כל הצדיקים והחסידים והתמימים והישרים ובעבור כבוד שמך הגדול והנורא, כי אתה שומע תפילת עמך ישראל ברחמים. ברוך אתה שומע תפילה.
We rise together on page 610 as we open the ark and open our hearts, open our eyes for the beginning of the Chazarat Tashatz of the Musaf Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch Shalom, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. האל הגדול, הגיבור הנורא, אל עליון. גומל חסדים טובים, ומלא מקום, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שבו מסוד חכמים ונבונים, ומלמד דעת מבינים, אפתח אפי בתפילה ובתחנונים, לחלות ולחנן פני מלך מלכי המלכים ואדוני האדונים. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למען אלוהים חיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למען אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך שמו, מגן אברהם
closed. You may be seated. Continue in the middle of page 610.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מחכה חיים לחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סובב רופאים ורופא חולים, ומלכי אסורים.
Before I came to Valley Beth Shalom, I was the chief rabbi of Biloxi, Mississippi. I had this little shul, about 65 families near the beach. And in August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina came ashore right in our backyard. It lifted up the shul, moved it 12 feet, and put it back down again. It brings a new understanding to what it means to be a surf rider at the shul. In fact, my good friend Richard is here. I first met him as a congregate in Biloxi, Mississippi. It turns out he has roots here. So now, when he gets deployed to Pearl Harbor, he stops off every Yontif to say hello. So it's nice to see you, Richard. What I learned in my days, 2 years working there after the storm. I mean, you have to remember, this is the worst disaster until this year of natural disaster in this country's history. Category 5 hurricane, 100,000 square miles of United States territory ripped apart. Literally, there were streets with no names. There were houses, whole blocks without houses. They were just stairways going up to nothing. The first time I arrived at the Gulfport airport after the storm, it didn't have a roof. If you looked out the window, you just saw a sea of blue tarps because everyone's roofs were now blue plastic tarps. And you ask this community, we have conversations all the time, you ask this community, did they do something wrong? Were they somehow immoral? Or somehow sinful? That their houses should be destroyed, that their families should be ripped apart, that their community be separated, that their homes would be taken from them, that the whole city would be flooded? You ask those people in Mexico today that suffered 2 earthquakes in the last 3 months, topping over 7.0 and 8.0 on the Richter scale, whether they did anything wrong? Do you ask the residents in Georgia and in Florida and in Puerto Rico if they did anything wrong? There are many preachers out there, including some in this town, who believe that natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes and fires are the result of God's moral wrath upon the people. In fact, the Unatana Tokef is a prayer, if you look at it only on the surface, that's what it appears to say. Who will live and who will die? Who by fire? Who will by water? Who will be raised up? Who will be brought low? That's because God cares about your sins, that if you don't do good things in the world, bad things will happen to you. That's what the Unetana Tokef appears to say. But the writer of this prayer, the author of this poem, is much more subtle than that. It's much more subtle than that. The line that you should concentrate on is in the second paragraph. In the Hebrew it says, Ubeshofar gadol yitaka, bekol demama daka yishama. The great shofar is blasted, heard throughout the kingdom, heard throughout the universe, but it is only the still, small, sweet voice that is heard. That's the key to opening up this whole prayer. When it says, who will live and who will die, who by fire and who by water, it's not a judgment upon your moral self. I'll teach you why right now. In the book of Kings, the prophet Elijah stood in front of God and saw a storm, a tempest. But God was not in the storm. Elijah felt an earthquake, but God was not in the earthquake. Elijah saw a raging fire, and God was not in the fire. God was in the kol demama daka, in the small, sweet voice of conscience. This prayer turns that theology out upon itself. The idea that we pass before God like sheep before a shepherd is not because shepherds judge their sheep. I don't know if anyone in this room a shepherd besides Clive. Is there anyone else in this room who has livestock? You don't judge your cow. You don't judge your sheep and say, you've been a bad sheep. You evaluate your sheep. You pass before you and say, I know you eat hay in the morning and grain at night. I know that this one has a hard time giving birth, and I'm going to have to help her. I know that this one, if it eats a certain way, the kind of wool that it gives is more soft and beautiful. And this one strays away from the flock. Shepherds don't judge, they evaluate. The Mishnah on which this prayer is based says that there are 4 times a year that the world is judged or evaluated. On Shavuot for fruit, on Passover for grain, on Sukkot for water, and on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for deeds. The trick is that none of those are in the past. They are only in the future. The rainy season, the water season begins on Sukkot. It doesn't end on Sukkot. The harvest of barley doesn't end on Passover. It begins on Passover. And the first fruits are given on Shavuot. They don't end the fruit harvest on Shavuot. It begins on Shavuot. To be nidun, to be judged, to be evaluated is always about the future, never about your past. Which is to say that the subtlety of this prayer teaches that your sins are your fault, but the things that happen to you in life are not. God cares about you like a shepherd cares for sheep, and evaluates you for the year to come more than the year that has gone by. That is the subtlety of the theology of this prayer. The end of the prayer, my favorite section, is about our mortality. It says that we look out at life and we know that in the end, we will all die. It reminds me of my favorite Charlie Brown cartoon. Charlie Brown and Snoopy are sitting on a dock. And if you're reading it, you only see their backs. They're facing a lake in front of them. And Charlie says to himself, in only the way that Charlie Brown can, he says, you know, Snoopy, one day we're all going to die. All Charlie Brown. And with Snoopy in his thought bubbles, right, the antidote to Charlie Brown says, yes, Charlie, but until then, we will live. That's the whole cartoon. That's what this prayer says. One day you know you will die. All of us have the same fate. But until then, we will live. And the choice is yours. To live a life closed off, to live a life diminished, to live a life of weakness, or to live a life that is open through making tshuva, repentance with yourself and with others, through the ruminations of the heart, through avodah and tefillah, and doing acts of charity and justice by lifting up the spirits of other people. Ub'shofar gadol yitaka, v'kol demama daka yishama. Don't be fooled by the great shofar that's supposed to scare you off. Instead, listen to the sweet small voice within of conscience, choosing to live a godly life. The Unatana Tokef, we rise together. We open the ark on page 612.
ונתן תוקף קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא ואיום, ובוא תנסר מלכותך, ויכון בחסד כיסאך, ותשב הוא דיין ומוכיח ויודע ואל וחוטא וסופר ומונה ותזכור כל הנשכחות ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות ומאליו יקרב וחותם יד כל אדם בו. ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וקול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפצו השנה יקטעו, ויום צום כיפור יחטאו. כמה יעברון, וכמה יבראו. בראש השנה יקטעו, ויום צום כיפור יחטאו. בראש השנה יקטעו, ויום צום כיפור יחטאו. מי יחיה ומי ימות, מי בקיצור ומי לא בקיצור, מי באש ומי במים, מי בחרב ומי בחיה, מי ברעב ומי בצמא, מי ברעש ומי במגפה, מי בחניקה ומי
offer praises to you, for you are slow to anger, ready to forgive. You do not wish that the sinner die. You would have the sinner repent and live. You wait for us to return to you until our final day. You welcome us, O our Creator, whenever we repent, knowing the weakness of your creatures, for we are mere flesh and blood. Our origin is dust, and our end is dust. The hazard of our lives do we earn our bread. We are like a fragile vessel, like a grass that withers, flower that fades, shadow that passes, the cloud that vanishes, the wind that blows, the dust that floats, the dream flies away. But you, O sovereign Raval, are the living and everlasting God.
ואתה הוא מלך אל חי וקיים.
We remain standing now on page 618 for the Kedusha.
נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב על יד נביאך וכרזה זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה ודברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נקדיש. קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נקדיש. ושבתך לרחנו, ליבנו לא ימוש, שלום לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נקדיש. כי מלך גדול וקדוש אתה
You may be seated. I think you've heard enough from me for a few minutes. So I get to call on one of my good friends, the president of our congregation, Scott Howard. I'd like to say a few words.
Martov. Just real quick note, I don't know how many people are baseball fans and are interested in volunteering here at the temple, but my predecessor, Nancy Cohen, has a lot of strong ties in professional sports, and when she became president, she made a deal with Major League Baseball that whoever is the president, their team will win the World Series. So when she was president, Kansas City won, and I'm a huge Cubs fan, and the Cubs hadn't won for over, like 108 years, and because of Nancy, the Cubs won last year. So it's a good opportunity if you're a baseball fan and you're if you'd like to volunteer here to help us out. Anyway, all right. As Tevye marvels in Fiddler on the Roof, it's a new world. I always thought these words only pertained to the generation of my parents and grandparents. Over the years, I continually am surprised to see once again, it's a new world. Each one of us can tell our own stories of this new world. For me, the new world started in 1980. The Israeli flag was raised over the newly opened embassy in Cairo. Whoever would have thought this could be possible? Then the Jews of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe were free to emigrate and practice their religion. No longer did our federations need to pay ransoms to Romania or ask our government to pressure the Soviet Union. No longer would I need to go down to the music center to protest the performance of the Moscow Ballet. The Berlin Wall came down, the Soviet Union broke apart, and Eastern Europe became independent, experimenting with capitalism and democracy. The great leader of the Czech Republic, Václav Havel, as his first act as president, reestablished diplomatic relations with Israel. The threat of war was less prevalent. Even peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians turned serious. There was a new normal, and we were in the middle of a historic change, the birth of a new world. So now, with my children at the same age as I was in the 1980s, what happened? How will they see this era? We see nuclear weapons being developed by North Korea and Iran. We see war all over the planet. We experience an America divided sharply against itself. I hope these are not the defining acts of our time. One day I pray our children will look back at this era as we did in our time, as a time of growing hope and possibilities. Here at Valley Beth Shalom, it is also a new world. Conservative Judaism and Judaism in America face new challenges. But because of our strong clergy, our professionals, our educators, and our volunteers, we at Valley Beth Shalom have met these challenges. Our show is made up of so many leaders, from Richard Sandler, who is chairman of the Jewish Federations of North America, to Jack and Rita Cinder, who have led Israel Bonds, to Victor Cohn and Donna Bender, national leaders of AIPAC, Janice Kamner-Resnick, founder of Jewish World Watch, and Elise Golden, board president of JNF in Greater Los Angeles, to so many others. We are one of the few conservative synagogues in the United States that is growing in membership and growing younger. This is due to the vibrant life of our community, to the strength of our rabbis, and to the excellence of our schools. To accommodate this growth, we began a building campaign 15 years ago. That campaign was a vision of Jeff Levine, and now is continued under Jeff Levine, Nancy Cohen, and Bart Pacino. The vision is coming true. Construction has started, and this time next year, we'll have a new building just to the east of here, where we are now sitting. A building that will house a gym, an additional facility for prayer, a stage, and a multimedia learning center. We continue to raise show-wise capital and renovations to the sanctuary to make it a place where the rabbis can teach and study with us. Thank you, Howard and Irene Levine, Rita and Jack Cinder, Jerry and Riza Niznik, Mark and Ellie Linner, Lee and Rachel Rosen, for your amazing lead gifts. Thank you to all who have supported this vision. We would like everyone to share a part in this vision. If you have any questions, please call me here at the synagogue to arrange a meeting where we could share that vision and our plans in more detail. Alongside the building project, we have fulfilled our rabbi's conviction that no family will be turned away from VBS due to financial constraints. This is due to your generosity in supporting the VBS annual fund. We hope to always be able to continue to abide by this promise. This year has been incredibly special for us. We are seeing growth, building, and new initiatives. We are building a shul that our children and grandchildren will continue to want to be part of. My daughter Rachel, who goes to school in Chicago, went to a shul there, and she told me it was very welcoming. When I asked her what that meant, she said, "You know, Dad, it's sort of like Valley Beth Shalom. I felt like I was at home." This past year, we saw with amazing pride Rabbi Feinstein receive his doctorate from JTS with his thesis on Rabbi Showeiss. We saw Rabbi Farkas become a leader in the Los Angeles Homeless Commission, and Rabbi Hoffman continue his leadership in the Jewish conservative movement. Once again, our rabbis led the largest contingent this side of the Mississippi to the AIPAC Policy Conference in March. While we may have different opinions on policies in Israel, we all believe in the Jewish homeland. That is why AIPAC has become such an important part of who we are here. The schools of Valley Beth Shalom continue to thrive. For the first time in years, the ECC, the nursery school, has a waiting list. The other schools are growing also, both in size and quality of education. We continue to grow and to teach. We are a leader. One of our initiatives that gave me as much pride as anything else we have done was to raise over $15,000 of funds this summer for the small Jewish community in Uganda. They were starving this summer. They were only eating one meal a day, and they needed immediate help until their harvest started in early October. All we did was make a couple of announcements from the Bima, and we sent a letter out, and we raised over 75% of the funds needed for the Abayuda Ya tribe. I can't say it well. The rabbi of the community, Rabbi Zumu, who graduated from AJU, was able to raise the rest of the funds. It is wonderful to see so many friends gathered here in the synagogue sharing the holiday. When I'm here with this large group, it feels like Lily and Zaitsev is sitting close by with my mom Alice and with Heike Feinstein down the aisle checking when each of us make it to shul. Then I still hear our impassioned Rabbi Schulweiss lift us to new heights and illuminate our souls. This place is still so special to me, and I hope it is to you as well. Thank you so much for my fellow board members, to President-to-be David Spiegel, to my mentor, Nancy Cohen, and especially my wife, Marcy, for their support for me this past year. And one quick advertisement is for our adult B'nai Mitzvah program. It's under Yossi Dresner's teachings, and it's a wonderful program. I plan to do it not this year, but the year after I'm no longer president. I want to learn under Yossi, and I want to learn how to focus. So I look forward to that, and I encourage anyone who's interested to talk to Yossi about doing it for this year. Gamar Hatima Tova.
Yasher Koach, Scott, always good to have you here. So if you would like to learn to become President of the United States, as Scott said, President of VBS, Scott said, President of the United States too, I guess. It's training ground here, and I guess anyone can be president. So if you would like to learn and volunteer here to be president of Valley Beth Shalom, you just tell us the name of your baseball team, and Nancy will go negotiate with the league to make sure that they win the World Series in the next year or two. We're going to continue our service on page 622 with V'chol Ma'aminim.
האוחז ביד מידת משפט וכל מאמינים שהוא אל אמונה הבוחן ובודק אם זה נסתרות וכל מאמינים שהוא בוחן כליות הטוען במוות ופוגם אישה אחת וכל מאמינים שהוא גואל חזק אדן יחידי לוויה עולם וכל מאמינים שהוא דיין אמת הגוי יהיה אשר יהיה וכל מאמינים שהוא היה והווה ויהיה וכל מאמינים שהוא וכל מאמינים שהוא גואל חזק לרשע וחפץ בצדקו זוכר המזכירים טובות זיכרונות, וכל מאמינים שהוא זוכר הברית החוטא חיים לכל חי, וכל מאמינים שהוא חי וקיים, הטוב ומיטיב לרעים ולטובים, וכל מאמינים שהוא טוב לכל, היודע ייצר כל יצורים, וכל מאמינים שהוא יוצרם בבטן, הכל יכול וכל רם יחד, וכל מאמינים שהוא כל יכול. וכל מאמינים שהוא, וכל מאמינים
Continue on page 624, Uvechen. Page 628.
ותמלוך את אדוני לבדך על כל מעשיך, בהר ציון משכן כבודך, ובירושלים עיר קודשך, ככתוב בדברי קודשך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, ואין אלוהים מבלעדיך, ככתוב, ויקבע אדוני צבאות במשפט, והאל הקדוש נקדש המלך הקדוש. אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, בשמך הגדול והקדוש, עלינו קראת. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה את יום השבת הזה ואת יום הזיכרון הזה, יום זיכרון תרועה, באהבה מקרא קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים.
Before I go on, I have to give a second warning about fasting. The morning I gave the first, this is the second. It is warm today, and there is water available in the hallway. We have a nurse in the bridal suite. If you are feeling faint or having a headache, please go see the nurse and please drink some water. You're supposed to fast to bring you to a holy place, not supposed to bring you to be flat on your face. So please take care of yourselves today. On Rosh Hashanah, my sermon was a letter to my children about the rising anti-Semitism in America and abroad, and how it was rising up from all sides. Now, on the right, anti-Semitism takes the note of good old-fashioned American and European anti-Semitism, where they look at Jews as terrible, conniving, manipulative people who own the keys to Hollywood, own the keys to Wall Street, own the keys to the newspapers, and keep other people from achieving their success in the world, so they hate us, and they want us to get out, and they say we can't replace them. This kind of hatred we know. But on the left, there's also another kind of anti-Semitism. It's anti-Semitism in the form of anti-Zionism. It's okay to criticize the state of Israel. It's everyone's right. It's part of being in a democracy. To try to hold the governments accountable for their actions. That's what it means to be an American. That's what it means to be a Jew. But what's not okay is to say that Jews don't have a collective right to live as anyone else. That's not okay. That's where being critical becomes anti-Zionist, and where anti-Zionism becomes anti-Semitism. This summer, and as you know, on campuses, many of our students have experienced this kind of anti-Semitism in a very strong way. And it's with Jewish leaders, Hillel directors, presidents of student bodies that have tried to fight against this type of anti-Semitism, this Israeli isolation, this anti-Zionism, on every campus and on every corner. Supporting the state of Israel, even if you are critical of it, is a key part to what it means to have a Jewish heart in the modern period. In the Shema, it says, V'ahavta Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. That you should love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. The rabbis go to town trying to come up with beautiful commentaries on this word levavcha, on your heart, because the word lev in Hebrew is supposed to be written with a singular bet. The word lev has one bet, except in the word levavcha it has two bets. And the Torah is a little bit like Wheel of Fortune. Every letter costs money, especially vowels. And so they ask a question, why did God decide to spend the money to put two vets in the word levavcha? It doesn't make any sense. And so they opens up a door of explanation, a door of contemplation, a door of meditation on what it means to love God b'chol levavcha. That there are two chambers to a Jewish heart. And I know the doctors in the room are going to tell me there are 4 chambers, but just go with me on this. There are 2 chambers to a Jewish heart. The first is to love justice, to pursue justice. Tzedek tirdof, it says. Justice shall ever be pursued. The Jewish heart, cares about those who live at the margin. We care about the orphan, the widow. We care about those who are poor, those who are strangers. We care about refugees. We care about those who have not yet found a place to put their weary heads. The Jewish heart beats for justice. It's at the center of who we are. We sing about it, we meditate, we pray about it 3 times a day. Every holiday has this same phrase. We just davened it just now, Zecher Letziat Mitzrayim, that we should remember that we were slaves in Egypt and that the pain of injustice, the pain of abuse, has to stop with us. We shouldn't continue that abuse or allow others to do that in the world. But the second chamber of the Jewish heart beats for our own homeland, for Zionism. For generations upon generations, for 2,000 years, we have yearned to live free as a collective in the way that we choose to see fit. We have died for it, we have lived for it, we have written about it, and we have prayed for it for 2,000 years. Beating in the Jewish heart, together, 2 chambers, 1 heart, is a love of justice and a love of Zionism. B'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha. Both and. Neither, either, or. So on this morning, I ask you to help me and help Sarah and I support our Zionism, our love of Israel, to grow it stronger, to grow it more flourishing, grow it better and more loving of the people who live there. For our hearts say, just as you love our people, we should love all peoples. And so in front of you is a nice little card to support Israeli bonds, an opportunity for you to make an investment in your Jewish heart, to show your love of your people, the love of your family, your extended family, and the love of our nation in our homeland. Please take a moment now, and hopefully the ushers will come around and collect, and take a moment to extend your Jewish heart by investing in Israeli bonds with me and Sarah today. While the ushers are coming around, let's turn to page 630, sing together for this beautiful Shabbos morning the words of Yismechu.
Ratzita, wo wir
generosity. At the core of Yom Kippur is this understanding that we have to displace our egos. We have to put our personal needs aside for just this one day. It's why we fast. It's why we pray. It's why we pine after a better day. At the core of Yom Kippur is our sense that we are part of a larger universe beyond ourselves. And there's no prayer that does that more historically and more holy than the Grand Aleinu. Now, you know this song because we sing it every Shabbos, and we sing at the end. It usually means that we're about to get tuna fish. But not today. Today, it actually comes from this part of the service. The centerpiece, this Grand Aleinu, is a time when we open the ark, we stand up, and we pray all the way to the ground. So I invite you today, if you've never tried before, when we pray and we bow at Korim, when we bend the knee, sublimate your ego, bow down, and some of us will go all the way to the ground to represent that we are not the center of our own lives. On page 632, we rise together, we open the ark for the Grand Aleinu. The ark is closed, you may be seated. Thousands of years ago, the Jewish people were gathered together in the shadow of the holy temple of Jerusalem on Yom Kippur, standing in front of the Kodesh HaKodeshim, the Holy of Holies, the innermost sanctuary of the temple. Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would pause, looking into the dark room with its billowing clouds of incense. And he knew his task: to enter the windowless, smoke-filled room that is said to contain the presence of God. He was to pray on behalf of the entire nation and indeed the entire world, reciting for the only time the holy name of God as it passed to him by his father and his father's father. He would hear the prayers and songs of the nation waiting outside for him to enter. He would remember the week's preparation, the reading of the Torah, purification of his body through ritual mikvah, immersion, and the purification of his mind through daily meditation. It seemed so much was riding on this moment when he would take on the sins of every last Jew. From the poor wood collector to the baker to the merchant, the high priest would pause, thinking of his life and his family, staring at that mysterious tremendum. He knew that on this day, on Yom Kippur, he needed to enter this dark place, even though doubt filled his heart. What if I mispronounce the name? What if my intentions are not pure? Will I save them, these people, for another year? Will I survive this journey into the terrible dark? Will they? These are the questions that sit inside the heart of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, at this very beautiful and terrible moment. Behind the words of poets that seek to give hope when lives are in the balance, those same feelings of the high priest are there. On the trains heading to Auschwitz, it was there. In the grit of the partisans' boots as they ran through the forest, it was there. In the chant of the protester who seeks to cast off the heel of oppression, it is there. On a boat filled with refugees, it is there. In the dark and flooded streets of Puerto Rico, it is there. In the worried voice of fathers and mothers who tuck their children in at night in the hospital, it is there. In the waiting room of the oncologist's office, it is there. In the light of the porch, waiting for your kid to come home from their first night out with a car, it is there. These are our moments when we become just like the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, and our silent prayers are that of his. We pray for blessings, pray for safety and security, and we pray for well-being. And as the nation saw the high priest enter the Holy of Holies on this most holy of day, they bowed their heads and closed their eyes. And the Kohen Gadol steadied his hands, took one last breath, and entered the most sacred realm. He bowed low on his face and prayed for the blessings of Torah, a blessing for thanks, a blessings for forgiveness, a blessings for all Jews, a blessing for the entire world with all his strength, and he would utter the secret name of God. The Avodah service reenacts the opportunity of the Kohen Gadol to enter the holiest of holies, page 641. We ask the congregation to please rise. priest would prolong the utterance of the name until the worshipers had completed their response, and then he would complete the Torah's verse saying, "You shall be cleansed." And you, Lord, in your goodness and compassion, forgave the congregation of Israel. On this beautiful morning, as we stand shoulder to shoulder with the year upon us, may it be a year of joy, a year of blessings, a year of Torah, a year of dignity, a year free from pain, a year free from sorrow, and a year of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'hiyanu zman. Amen. As the ark is closed, you may be seated. In your poetry books, let's turn to page 4. As we begin the Slichot section, there's a beautiful poem by Yehuda Amichai. I ask us to read it together. It's in this one, not the Yizkor one, it's in the Makor one. Page 4. My father was God, and I did not know it. He gave me the 10 Commandments, neither in thunder nor in fury, neither in fire nor in cloud, but rather with gentleness and love. And he added caresses and kind words, and he added, I beg you, and please. And he's saying, keep and remember, in a single melody. And he pleaded and cried quietly between one utterance and the next. Do not take the name of God in vain. Do not take it, not in vain, I beg you. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. And he hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, do not steal, do not commit adultery, do not murder. And he put the palms of his open hands on my head with the Yom Kippur blessing, honor, love, in order that your days might be long on the earth. My father's voice was white like the hair on his head. Later on, he turned his face to me one last time, like on the day when he died, in my arms, and said, I want to add a 2 to the 10 commandments. The 11th commandment, thou shalt not change. And the 12th commandment, thou must surely change. So said my father, and then he turned from me and walked off, disappearing into his strange distances. Every one of us hears our parents' voices at one point or another. Every one of us who has children knows that our voices ring in their heads. The 11th and 12th commandments, not to change and to change. Such is the paradox of life. Such is the Slichot section when we lay bare our sins. We open the ark and ask God, we dare God to come close to us. As we stand still and ask God to listen to us, to listen to our voices, as we dare not to change, and as we dare to change at the same time. The words of Shema Kolenu, the most daring prayer that we have, we challenge God to listen to us, to hear our voices, and to bring us home in repentance, in tshuva. We stand together on page 644. We open the ark for Shema Kolenu.
השיבנו אדוני אליך, השיבנו אליך ונשובה
us to you, O Lord, and we shall return. Renew us as in the days of old.
אל תשליכנו אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה כי
Do not banish us from your presence. Do not deprive us of your Holy Spirit. Do not cast us off in old age when our strength declines. Do not forsake us. The ark is closed. You may be seated. Kianu Amecha, page 646. Page 648, the confessional, the vidui, the ashamnus. I ask the congregation to please rise and sing with us.
ay, ay, ay.
51, confessional. We have sinned against you by hardening our hearts. We have sinned against you
by speaking perverse.
We have sinned against you publicly and privately.
And we have sinned against you by corrupt speech.
We have sinned against you by evil thoughts.
And we have sinned against you by insincere confession.
We have sinned against you intentionally and unintentionally.
And we have sinned against you by desecrating your
Together for all these sins, O God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and grant us atonement. We have sinned against you by foolish talk.
We have sinned against you knowingly and unknowingly.
We have sinned against you by bribery.
We have sinned against you by slander.
We have sinned against you in eating and drinking.
And we have sinned against you by false pride.
Together for all these sins, O God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and grant us atonement. We have sinned against you by wanton glances. We have sinned against you by perverting justice.
And we have sinned against you by envy.
We have sinned against you by being stubborn.
And we have sinned against you by talebearing.
We have sinned against you by causeless hatred.
And we have sinned against you by confusion and wrath.
Together for all these sins, O God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Seated. We continue on page 654.
Mitzvot ומחולן לשבטי ישורון בכל דור ודור. ומבלעדיך אין לנו מלך, מוכר וסולח אלא אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני. מלך מוכר וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל. ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש את ישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש השבת בישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש השבת בישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש השבת בישראל. ויום הכיפורים
You can close your books for a couple minutes. Consider this my third admonition for fasting. It's getting warm outside now. It's almost lunchtime, so that means that your stomach is probably churning and gurgling and telling you it's time to eat. And in a few moments, you'll start feeling lightheaded, and you might even pass out or fall asleep during my sermon, in which case I'll only be offended on the inside. I won't show it on the outside. But if you are not feeling well, please remember to go to the nurse, which is located in the bridal suite, or get a drink of water. It's very important that you take care of your body and you don't ruin your body, or otherwise you'll have no fun eating kugel and lox and bagels tonight. So please take care of yourself. On Rosh Hashanah, I gave a pretty serious talk about anti-Semitism, and I was thinking about how to approach my sermon for this morning. Now, I know this is the first time I've had an opportunity to really be with this community in this room on all of Yontif. We were together Erev Rosh Hashanah, but for most of you, that's a spiritual warm-up, and now this is sort of the main event. So if you want to hear my Rosh Hashanah sermon, you get to go online, and you get to see it on the video or read it in print, because I have a different talk I want to give today. And the topic I want to start with this morning comes from a modern, sagely poet. It's written some beautiful poetry, well known in this country, contemporary artist, well loved, by the name of Pharrell Williams. He wrote this beautiful song. It begins, "It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air like I don't care, baby, by the way, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth, because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do, because I'm happy." Yes, you have to participate in my sermon or else it won't work, okay? It's a catchy tune. It's my kids dance to it every time it comes on the radio at the house. It's very popular. People sing to it all the time. Now, it might be crazy what I'm about to say, and I might be full of hot air, but I'm not a balloon, even though my wife sometimes calls me a buffoon. But here's the thing. Yom Kippur is not supposed to be a sad holiday. We've had other holidays that are sad, like Tisha B'Av, a night and day of fasting that memorializes the destruction of the temple. It takes place in the middle of the summer because, well, nothing says a summer vacation like having to put down your margarita to mourn the loss of a building 2,000 years ago. But on a much more serious note, there's Yom HaShoah, where we read the names of the victims of the Holocaust. It's a serious day indeed. Or even at the end of the Passover Seder, we open the door, we welcome Elijah, the harbinger of the Messiah, and we read this paragraph, Shafoch hamatecha, pour out your wrath. Pour out your wrath upon those who have punished us and hurt us and kept us from redemption. That's a more serious moment, painful moment. But Yom Kippur is not supposed to be a sad holiday. Even though, which we will in just a few minutes, remember those who are not with us anymore through the prayers of Yizkor. Yom Kippur is not an angry holiday. It's not a sad holiday. We're not supposed to be completely down on ourselves. It's a day of personal evaluation, of bringing to the surface our vulnerabilities, our mortality. But once the great shofar is sounded and we put out the Havdalah candle, you're supposed to dance and sing. In fact, at the end of your breakfast tonight, you're supposed to build your sukkah. You're supposed to put the first pole of your sukkah into the ground and that is our happiest holiday of the whole year. And so that means that after you've finished your lox and bagels and you've had your 3 or 4 cups of coffee to make up for your caffeine headache, you have the opportunity to sing and to dance and to be joyous. Yom Kippur is not a sad holiday, but it's through our fasting and through our prayers that we can actually become more joyous, so we can actually become more holy, which is what I want to focus on with you for a few minutes today. I want to think through what it means to think about happiness and to think about holiness, and whether Pharrell Williams was right when he said happiness is the truth. Because I think we should talk about what it means to be holy as an individual and as a community. For starters, there's this idea of being happy. It's an emotion that takes place by your surroundings. Happiness is based on something that happens to you. It's triggered by something on the outside coming inside. It's not always something that comes from the inside pouring outside. I'll give you a perfect example. If it's my birthday party and my kids or my wife lights the candles on the cake and brings it out and sings, I have to sing it. Happy. I'm happy because it's my birthday and my friends and family are around and I get to celebrate. Now, if it's my son's birthday and I light the candles on the cake and bring it out to him and sing, I'm so happy for him because he's so joyous. I mean, he has the best laugh. Now, it's my son's friend's birthday, and his mom lights the candles and brings the cake out and sings, I am ecstatic because it means the party is over and I get to go home and watch football. Happiness is something that surrounds you. It's something that happens to you. It doesn't really come from the inside. Now, if it's about your surroundings, then we should take a trip to the happiest place on earth, which is where? That's right. It's where we go as families. You buy the ticket, you get ice cream, you go on the rides, you meet a character. It scares the bejesus out of your 2-year-old. You have a good time. Maybe you pick up a few souvenirs. You stay up too late. You see the light parade. And then you drive home in traffic. And the next morning, you get the bill. And maybe you're not so happy anymore. It's because happiness is not only something that begins externally, it's actually something that's ephemeral. Feeling happy is temporary. It's not something that you can keep or hold on to. It oozes out of you the moment you stop feeling it. But where does this idea that being happy is so important comes from? Where does it come from? It actually is an ancient idea. In ancient Greece, in Athens, the seat of democracy for the world, the seat of Western philosophy for the world, the seat of Euro sandwiches for the world. They've created philosophy that we understand. Aristotle wrote 2 books on happiness, the first called Eudaimonian Ethics, the second Nicomachean Ethics. He writes, eudaimonia, this idea of happiness, it is complete and self-sufficient, being the end of all of our practical undertakings. And what he means by this is that happiness is the goal of life because there's nothing better than it. There's nothing that can go beyond it. There's no regress beyond happiness. I'll explain. You know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about a young kid in a math class who says, why do I have to learn this stupid math? And the answer is so that you get good grades. Well, why do I need to get good grades? So that you can go to high school. Well, why do I need to go to high school? So that you can go to... Why do I need to go to college? It's so that you can get a good... Why do I need to get a good job? So that you can buy a nice house and go on a nice vacation. Well, why do I need to do those things? So you feel happy. Eudaimonia, the Western philosophy from ancient Greece, tells us that there is nothing greater than happiness, this sense of happiness. And all of our undertakings, from learning math in 4th grade to learning how to say things properly, string a few words together, is meant to make us happy. And you could draw a straight line from Athens and its philosophers all the way to pop psychology today. The most popular class at Harvard University is called the Happy Class. 826 undergraduates enroll in it every year. It meets every Tuesday and Thursday in the largest auditorium on campus. If you were to go online to iTunes, you would find over 700 songs with either the title Happy or the subject of happiness as its matter. If you go to the TED website, where all rabbis learn how to give sermons, you will find over 200 talks about happiness. And if you were to go on Amazon, you will find that there are 20,000 books, either with the title or subject matter of happiness. And if you're hungry and you're an American, you're going to go across the street right behind me to get a happy meal. And if you're going to get home from work and you want to go someplace where everyone knows your name, you're going to take a little time off to go to a... And if some people I hear go to other places for happy endings, it's true. Americans are obsessed with happiness. We're obsessed with happiness. And perhaps it's because we've inherited this idea from Greece that we have to become happy. But also, maybe it's because we look out at the world and see how difficult it is. We go out in the world and we see how divided a community has become. And we've seen that there are those in our community who are trying to sow those divisions on purpose to undo our way of life as Americans. Or we look to our west and we see the threat of nuclear war from North Korea. Or we look at the domestic politics of our country. Or even closer to home, we feel the anxiety that permeates everyday life, the fear of getting fired. I know that there are people in this room who are afraid right now that they might not be able to keep their jobs. Or the fear of not making enough. I know there are people in this room who feel that. Or the fear of not having enough in the bank account or a high enough GPA. Or I know this too in this room, the fear of being shamed for your life choices, or for your sexual orientation, or for just being who you are. Or maybe there's a fear of going back to work after you have a child because you don't want to leave them with a stranger. Or the fear of not going back to work and what that might mean in terms of your career, or setting as an example to your kids of what it means to be an adult. Or maybe there's someone in your family who's getting sick and you're not sure what to do about it or how to take care of them. Or there's a mandatory retirement in your company or your firm and you just don't feel like your life project is over yet. There's a lot of anxiety that permeates every corner of our lives. And now we look out at the horizon and we search. We search for something important. We search for this release of our tension, this release from our pain. We're searching for happiness. Now, don't think that Judaism doesn't care about joy. Judaism says that being happy is really, really important. In fact, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav famously said, "Mitzvah gedola lihiyot besimcha tamid." It is a great mitzvah to be happy all the time. The word simcha is mentioned nearly 200 times in the Bible and the Tanakh, and over 1,000 times in rabbinic literature. An overflowing cup of wine at Kiddush, at Yontif, at weddings, even at the most important moments in our lives, it represents an overflowing sense of joy. You can't make Kiddush without an overflowing cup of wine. If you see a bride walking down the street, and it doesn't matter if she's young or old, beautiful or not, you're supposed to stop what you're doing, put down your work, go out into the street, give her a hug and a kiss, and tell her if she's beautiful, whether she is or not. And you're supposed to dance with her. Because no one is supposed to feel sad on their wedding day. It is a mitzvah, a commandment, to rejoice with the bride and the groom. And don't tell me that you've never heard of Larry David or Seinfeld or any of the other great Jewish comedians, because we know that Jewish joy is had through Jewish humor. Jewish jokes are some of the best that are out there. For example, Have you heard the one about the salmon and the chicken who go for a walk? Salmon and chicken go for a walk on Sunday morning. They walk by a shul, and it says, Lox and Eggs Charity Breakfast. The chicken turns to the salmon and says, look, this looks like it could be really fun. It's a nice community event. The salmon says, I don't know, that seems, it's like in a shul. I don't really go to shul. And this chicken says to the salmon, look, it's for a good cause. It's for charity. Why don't you want to go? And the salmon looks really upset and really perturbed, and the chicken finally presses him and says, let's go, come on. It says Lox and Eggs Charity Breakfast. Let's go. And the salmon says to the chicken, from you, they want a contribution. From me, they want a commitment. Or the one about Rabbi Simmons on Yom Kippur. Have you heard about him? He was fed up. He didn't want to go to shul anymore. He didn't want to teach. He didn't want to lead. He didn't want to preach. He went to the golf course on Yom Kippur. He starts playing golf. Moses looks down at him from heaven and gets really angry. Turns to God and says, look at this rabbi. Look at this schlepper rabbi. He should be out there preaching and teaching to his community, not playing golf. And then Moses looks down, and suddenly Rabbi Simmons gets a hole-in-one. And then on the next hole, the hardest hole in the course, he gets another hole-in-one. On the final hole, hole-in-one. Now Moses is really angry. He goes to God and says, this rabbi who should be in shul, who should be punished, is having the best golf game of his life. Don't you need to punish him, God? Aren't you supposed to punish him? And God simply says to him, who's he going to tell? Okay, one more. I went camping this summer in Yosemite. This summer, and there's a joke about a Jew who goes camping in Yosemite. He wakes up in the morning after a beautiful night. He sees the waterfalls. He puts on his talis. He puts on his tefillin. He starts praising God for such a beautiful day, and just as he's getting into his prayers, a big grizzly bear shows up licking his chops. The rabbi or the Jew looks at the bear and says, oh my God, Ribono Sha'olam, master of the world, can you turn this bear into a good Jewish bear? A Jewish bear, a sweet Jewish bear. Can you turn this bear into a sweet Jewish bear? And he begins singing Shema Yisrael because he thinks his last days, his last moments are upon him, and he opens his eyes, and the bear has stopped and has put on a kippah and is shuckling like this and singing. Moshe says, oh my God, I'm saved. I'm saved. This is such a good Jewish bear. He goes over and listens to the bear, and the bear is singing, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. See? We love jokes. We love being happy. Jews love being happy. It's part of who we are. Yom Kippur can be a happy holiday. It's when we can tell jokes. And I hope it's okay I tell food jokes. I hope it's not making you too hungry. If you are, you can go across the street behind me to the most popular restaurant in America and go get a... Yeah, you got it. Okay. So it's not just because we feel this way. There's actually sociological studies, economic studies about happiness. In 1970 was the first economic study on happiness. It was during a period of rising incomes and lowering debts, and they asked one simple question, are you happy? They wanted to know if you could correlate income with life satisfaction. Is it better to be happy than it is to be rich, right? That's like kind of the central question, right? And what they found, and this study's been repeated basically every decade ever since, is that there is a correlation between income and satisfaction to a point. That as your income rises and you feel like you don't have to worry that you're going to have a medical emergency and it's going to ruin you, or that you're going to lose your job and it's going to ruin you, that your house is going up in value, it's not going to ruin you, right? As you feel that way, you begin to feel more life satisfied. But when you get past a certain threshold, it begins to level off. It almost takes a right turn and begins to level off, and this other feeling begins to rise exponentially, which is this sense of meaninglessness. That for every new thing that you buy, your marginal happiness lasts for a shorter and shorter period of time, because our sensibilities adapt to what we own. As one billionaire said, how many more pairs of jeans do I need to make me look good? I have one for every day of the week. It's because we adapt to what we own. The purse you buy, the car you buy, they certainly become part of your life. And the more you ask yourself, what do I need to feel happy, the more disappointed you become with the thing that you've bought. What emerges from these studies is that every purchase we make can add to our satisfaction, but only for a short period of time. The more we ask ourselves, what do I need? They have found that the more we ask, how much more do I need? The more you ask yourself, what do I need? The more you feel the need to need. That's the loop. That's this cycle. Freud calls this living by your instincts or your passions. There's a cycle of desire and pleasure, desire and pleasure, desire and pleasure, until we get back to the end of our lives and wonder what our life was really about. And we know, all of us in this room know, that our souls need something more than this. We need something different. Our hearts are screaming for something more. Trying to live life as the ancient Greeks, as Aristotle has set up our dynamic for us by setting happiness as life's ultimate telos, its ultimate goal, and crafting your entire life, as he says, all of your practical undertakings around that goal, either by buying your way there, or vacationing your way there, or drugging your way there, leads us to this empty place where it's never enough. It's a lot like trying to say you get enough sleep. Happiness and sleep are the same thing. It's something that we tell our friends we never get enough of, and that we're always looking for more of it. And when we finally have it, we're never awake enough to even know it. So why do I bring this up? Because Athens has had a lock on the Western mind for thousands of years. It is the basis of rational philosophy. It is the basis of utilitarianism philosophy. It is the basis of existential philosophy. It is the basis of Kant. It's the basis of logical thinking. We have had a lock on the Western mind, Athens had, for thousands of years. But we're Jews. We're not Greeks. Athens is not our capital. Jerusalem is. Judaism has always said that our lives cannot be reduced to the mere biological cycle of need and satisfaction. Being happy is not life's primary goal. As Kohelet, the author of Ecclesiastes, once wrote, I mixed joy and experienced pleasure, and behold, it too was futile. Of laughter I said, it is mirth, and concerning joy, what does it accomplish? You see, he wasn't just a crotchety altacocker who didn't like life. He was an amazing human being. He had learned from the greatest teachers. He had traveled the world. He was poor and became rich. And through the end of it all, he saw that at the cycle of pleasure and desire led to vanity, to nothingness. He wasn't just some sage way back then. He's every one of us. If he lived today, he probably would like to stay at the Ritz, or at least the Hilton. He'd probably eat good food. I'm sure he would have great seats to Hamilton. He probably had good tea times at the club, and maybe even a box at the bowl every summer. Yet he felt that at the end of his travels, the end of his thinking, his wealth, even though it brought him ephemeral joy, it brought him a sense of meaninglessness, that he's accomplished nothing. That's because life is more than a circle of desire and pleasure. Desire and pleasure. You are more than a biological creature. You're more than what Freud said about our instincts and our passions, the vital drives of sex, food, power, and all the time we spend trying to fulfill those drives do not, according to the rabbis, describe the fullness of our existence. The material desires are part of each human being, but they cannot fully describe the experience of being human. Our souls are begging for something different. Our hearts are screaming for something more. It is the philosophers of Athens that teaches us that happiness is the greatest goal, the greatest good, because it's the only thing we do for its own sake. But it is the sages of Jerusalem that teaches us that happiness is not life's goal. It's holiness. Holiness is the goal of life. The purpose of life, says our tradition, is to be not only happy, because you deserve to be happy, but to be holy. And so what is holiness? On this holiest day of the year, we have to ask the question, what is holiness? It's hard to teach it directly, so I'm going to use it from a couple different angles to tell the story. Our kids in the day school this year are doing the play Wizard of Oz. Do you remember the movie, 1930-something movie, right? Dorothy, Auntie Em, they're in this magical place called Kansas, right? And they are there, and their life's all right. I mean, the weather's terrible, but their life is fine. Everyone's okay. Toto's fine. Dorothy's fine. Auntie Em is fine. Everyone's fine, except there's this thing. There's this thing in the background that none of them notice. Not a single character in the story. It's in every room, every corner, every frame. Nobody in the story notices that they are living in black and white. It's not until after the storm, when the house goes flying through the air and lands in Oz in Munchkin Land, and Dorothy opens the door, the camera goes through the door, does she wander outside in full Technicolor beauty for the first time. That is what holiness is. It fills our world. It's in the background. Many of us, though, don't even know it. We don't even know it's there. And if you've only lived your life trying to achieve one thing, happiness, if you've only lived your life trying to achieve eudaimonia, or what Athens tells us is the goal of life, you're only living along a single broadcast. Your life is broadcast in black and white. But if you understand that happiness is a means and not an end, if you understand that it is greater world out there that is more cherished and sacred than what happiness can give you alone, if you see yourself in service to something greater, then you can live in many dimensions at once. Your life is no longer broadcast in black and white, but in full, blazing, streaming Technicolor. Now, again, it's hard to approach exactly what holiness is directly, so I'll tell you another story. When my Zeta died, we gathered in the Shiva house. And after a couple of days of his tragic death, one of the cousins stands up and says, "Can I tell Zeta's favorite joke?" She begins to tell the joke, and we start laughing. And then another joke, and then another. We go around the whole room. We start laughing so hard we're in stitches. We're on the floor. We're laughing so hard we're crying. And it's not because we're happy. It's not because we're happy. In fact, we're really sad, and we're full of mourning. But in that moment, we feel a different emotion. We feel joy amidst our sorrow, commingled together. An admixture of emotions can turn one thing into many things. It can turn happiness or sadness into holiness. A few years later, when Sarah and I were married, at our wedding, we stood under this beautiful chuppah on a Sunday afternoon, outdoors. Our friends were singing. And it's a tradition in our family that at the beginning of every simcha, you still recall in memory the people who aren't with us anymore. And so we said prayers for our loved ones who have fallen, including my Zeta. And we all cried. I cried. Everyone cried. Because he spent so much of his time pouring his life into us. But because we were there on this most joyous day, under the chuppah, in this beautiful place where we could have just felt unbridled happiness, unbridled joy, we also felt mourning and loss. We commingled emotions together, and we turned a happy moment into a holy moment. And the same is true when we were in this congregation, right over there in the corner in the back of Glazer, when we named my daughter Meira, who we named after my Zeta. And amongst the most joyous feelings of new beginnings, we took a moment to remember him again by sharing a few of his virtues and stories that we wished to see in her. I was sad and happy and excited and nervous all at the same time, a full spread of colorful emotions in which we paint the world with God's paintbrush. We made a celebratory moment into a holy moment. Michaye metim barachamim rabim. We turned our mourning into dancing, our darkness into light. Michaye metim barachamim rabim. We turned death into life, sweet precious life, once again. It's okay to laugh in a Shiva house and to cry under a chuppah and mourn at a baby naming. It's not only okay, it is holy. Holiness is the fullest expression of our human flourishing. It is both sad and happy. It is both angry and equanimity. It is both past, present, and future, when those moments come together, when we realize we search to our past and we come to this very moment, we say, Shechianu, V'kiyamanu, V'higiyanu, Lazman Hazeh. That is a holy moment. It is not only a happy moment. So what is holiness? We don't believe that God, Jews don't believe that God makes a map for your life. We're not predestined to heaven. You don't get a ticket to heaven by being here today. Sorry, you might want to leave now if you're real worried about that. But if you want to go to our evangelical friends across the street, you're more than welcome to. But God, in the Jewish mind, doesn't make a plan for your life, doesn't tell you how to be all the time, because you are not predestined. Your life is your responsibility. God is not a map maker. He has no plan for your life. God does, however, provide us with a blueprint. A blueprint tells you how to build the house, where to put the beams, put the plumbing, the electricity, maybe even the shingles on the roof, but it doesn't tell you what painting to put on the wall. It doesn't tell you what melody to sing your children to sleep, or what kind of tortillas you use for Taco Tuesday. Blueprints are plans, but they're plans for an environment, an ecology, an ecosystem in which holy moments can be found. Blueprints are the background, and your life is the foreground. The Torah, according to Breshit Rabbah, is God's blueprint for the world. God designed the world, according to the mystics, through the ideas of the Torah. It gives us commandments and tells us who we are and what to be as a people. But at the center of the Torah is a single character that is more important than Abraham and Sarah, more important than Miriam and Moses. In fact, it's the most important character in the world because the whole world depends on it. The center of the story of the Torah is you. At its center is your life, of where you come from, what its nature is to be a human being, what is demanded of you, commanded of you, needed of you, and how you can give to the world. God ordains the sacred times, but it is up to you to make them holy. The Torah sets out a blueprint for the house, but it's up to you to make life in the house, which is another of the greatest dimensional differences between happiness and holiness. Aristotle asks, how do I find happiness? What fulfills my desire? What frees me from pain? What gives me pleasure? What do I need? The Torah asks, how do you find holiness? How do you free the pain of others? How are you needed? You don't marry someone to make you a better person. It's because you are needed by your partner to feel loved. They need your love. You don't ask for forgiveness to make yourself feel less guilty. You ask for forgiveness so that the other person no longer has to feel the pain that you've caused them. They need you to free them. And tzedakah is a holy virtue. And you shouldn't give money to charity just because it makes you feel good, or because, at least for now, you'll get a tax deduction. It's because the poor need you. They cry out to you. They beg for you. And when you, as Isaiah, as we read this morning, break their fetters of poverty, of slavery, of oppression, when you do that, you become holy through them. They need you. It's how you become holy, because you are needed. The Torah does not say, Smechim tihiyu, you shall be happy, because life is not lived in black and white. It says, Kedoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy with all its ups and downs, with happiness and sadness, with life and with death, in life's fullest dimensions and colors that breaks the cycle of desire and pleasure by transcending ourselves to be more godly. This, my friends, is the central task of your life. The world, according to the Talmud, was created for you, so you know that you are part of something dramatically bigger than your personal needs. Being human and finding significance and indeed happiness cannot happen solely by the fulfillment of your desires, but instead in the realization that you are needed. The Torah's blueprint for your life is only its foundations. It sets the parameters, creates the ecology and the environment, can be the who, what, where, when, but you are the why. It gives you some guidance and asks you its most central question, are you needed? And your life is the answer to this question. In 2011, the Nobel laureate and amazing author Toni Morrison spoke at Rutgers University in a commencement address. She says, I urge you, please don't settle for happiness. It's not good enough. Of course you deserve it, but if all that you have in mind is happiness, meaning personal success devoid of real meaning, free from the steady commitment to social justice that's more than a barren life, it's a trivial one. It looks good instead of doing good. Yom Kippur is our commencement day, complete with funny robes and funny hats. Yom Kippur is also our holiest day of the year. Yom Kippur is the holiday where we free ourselves from the cycle of desire and pleasure by fasting. We fast our bodies so we can feed our souls. We wear no leather nor display wealth of any kind, for we know that materialism is no substitute for holiness, and we spend the day away from work and our physical needs, choosing instead to reflect and look inside ourselves so that we may grow into becoming better people. We're not just trying to look good, although some of you look really, really nice. We're trying to be good, because that's what it means to be holy. Both Athens and Jerusalem say that you and I are the most important thing ever imagined. But where the Greeks say the goal of life is happiness, to be happy, our sages say it is to be holy. To build a life of holiness where your needs are met by meeting the needs of others, where we can build a synagogue community of caring and sharing, a place that dips into the wellspring of our ancient tradition and can say at almost any moment, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even Shabbat, and on Sunday again, at any moment we can find someone in this building, someone in this community doing holy work. That's why we belong here. That's why we come together here, because we're trying to build a holy community. By learning our eternal values, by reaching deep within our souls, by connecting to others and growing in spirit, and by growing the spirits of others through acts of chesed, of loving kindness, our community transcends itself. It's not a country club, even though some people wish it was. It's not a business, even though some people think that it is. It is a kehila kedosha, a community of holiness, where we can never settle just for happiness, because our lives are so much more colorful than that. And that you can clap along to if that's what you want to do. Gemar Chatima Tova to everyone. A holy, happy, healthy, sweet new year. Together we say, Amen. Just a moment, we'll do the Yizkor prayers. Cantor Raz has a beautiful song, Pitchu Li Sharei Tzedek. I'd like to sing with us now.
Sometimes I lose my way, I stumble and fall. I fail to see the open door and only see the wall. Sometimes I close my ears when open they should be, but then I stop and listen to the still small voice inside of me. Pitchu li Sharei Tzedek Avovam Odeyah. Pitchu li Sharei Tzedek Avovam Odeyah. May I see my life in the work of your hands, and walk in love and freedom to the promised land. And when I lose my way, I pray that I may see that spark inside the darkness, and the gates open for me. Pitchu li Sharei Tzedek Avovam Odeyah. Pitchu li Sharei Tzedek Avovam
Friends, if you are exiting the room, I ask you to please do so quietly. For those of us who are remaining would like to mourn our loved ones, so please, I ask you to please exit quietly. Anyone who is participating or being honored in the Yizkor service, I ask you to please come forward now. We don't need to open our machzors yet, but please to open up these Yizkor booklets. This is where we'll be doing Yizkor. The names of your loved one, if you had made a wonderful donation in their names to the scroll of remembrance, is in the back. Just as we're getting settled, I'll just tell you this sweet story. Imagine a beautiful afternoon in a lakeside, small pond. The sun is going down, the sky is turning red and purple and blue, and there's this beautiful woods along a small lake. And if you look into the surface of the lake, you can see the sky reflected so beautifully in it. Trees, clouds, the birds. Father and a son walking along the edge of the wood come upon the lake. It's beautiful, end of summer, beginning of autumn. And the father teaches his sons, as many of us have done and learned from our parents, to skip rocks. You pick up a rock and you skip it across the surface of the lake. Over and over again, the father teaches the son to skip rocks across its surface. He asks his son, he says, "What do you see?" And the son says, "Well, I see trees, I see water, I see the sky." And then he says, "Now look into the lake, what do you see?" And the son says, "I can see the sky reflected in the lake." He says, "Exactly. And now take up this stone, my son. Take up this beautiful flat stone, skip it across the lake." And the son skips, 1, 2, 3, and sinks. And the father asks the son now, "What do you see?" He says, "Well, I saw a stone skipping across the lake." And he says, "No, look again. Look deeper." And the son says, "I see ripples moving across the lake where the stone sank into the water." And the father said, "No, look deeper one more time." And he says, "What do you mean?" He says, "The stone isn't falling into the lake. If you look at its reflection, you see that the stone is falling into the sky." And then he asks his son, "What is left after the stone sinks into the sky? What is left?" And the son says, "All I see are the ripples moving across the surface of the lake." And the father says, "That's exactly right. Every one of us is like a stone skipping across the lake. Every single one of us. We live our life. We grow up. We are formed. We go and make a life together. We skip along life's surface. But every single one of us will slip below the surface at some point. Every one of us will sink into the sky. And when that happens, what is left of us are the ripples. The family that we left behind. The business we left behind. The community we left behind. Even though we're not there physically, we're there spiritually. And we know this from our loved ones who have passed on. You'll walk down the street and suddenly you see something or you smell something and you feel like you're in your mama's kitchen. Or you're yelling at your kid and realize you've become your father. Or you hold a baseball and play catch and realize that your son throws the ball just like he did. Or that you go and see a movie and it reminds you of your child and her sweet face no longer with us. These are the moments where the ripples through time touch us at the edge of the wood, at the edge of the lake. Every one of us, every human being slips below the surface. And we can spend time with them again, even briefly, in memory and in song and in love. The Yizkor prayers is a time for us to walk around the lake knowing that the stone has sunk into the sky, a chance to see the ripples again. As the ark is open, we remove the Sifrei Torah. We rise together to begin our Yizkor prayers on page 3 in your booklet. Adonai, who are we that you should care about us? Who are we that you take note of us?
Adonai, madam vatedaihu, b'nei nosh vatechashveihu, adam lahever doma, yamav kitzel oveh.
Adonai, who are we that you should care about us? Who are we that you take note of us? Our lives are a wisp of breath. Our days are but a shadow that passes away.
Ma'enosh ki tizkerenu, u'ben adam ki tifkedenu, vat chasreihu me'at me'elohim, v'chavod v'hadar te'atrehu.
Who are we that you remember us? Who are we that you are mindful of our lives? You made us almost like angels, adoring us with beauty and majesty.
Yoshev b'seit elyon, b'tzel Shaddai tlanan, omar l'Adonai machsi u'mitzudati, Elohai yeftach bo.
You who dwell in the shelter of the Most High and abide in the protection of Shaddai. Let us say of Adonai, my refuge and fortress, it is God in whom I trust.
Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini ba'al emot, lachen samach libi, ve'ager kevodi, af besari, af besari, yishkol laveta.
I am ever mindful that God is with me. Adonai is at my right hand, I shall not fail. So my heart rejoices, and my soul exalts, and my body rests in safety. Mizmor LeDavid, Psalm 23, page 4. Take a few moments now. Spend time with your loved ones again, bringing them into your heart, into your mind, into your soul. The words of Yizkor, page 6 and 7. A few moments of silent prayer. Yizkor Elohim neshamot kol achinu b'nei Yisrael shemasru et nafshan al kiddush Hashem. Ana yishama b'chayinu hed gvuratam u'mesiratam v'yer ma'asenu tochar libam v'tihiena nafshotehem tzurot b'tzura chayim u'tiyeh menuchatam kavod sovea smachot et panecha nimot b'yamanecha netzach v'nomar. Amen. May God be mindful of the souls of our family, departed members of the house of Israel who sacrificed their lives and martyred themselves for the sanctification of the holy name and the honor of our homeland Israel. Grant that their heroism and self-sacrificing devotion find response in our hearts. The purity of their souls be reflected in our lives. May their souls be bound up in the bonds of eternal life and an everlasting blessing among us. And together we say, Amen. The bottom of page 9. El Male Rachamim.
El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromi, Ametzem Menuchan Echana, Tachat Kanefei HaShechina, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מחזירים, לנשמות כל אלה שהזכרנו היום לברכה, שהלכו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר Amen.
O merciful God, who dwells on high and yet is full of compassion, keep in your divine presence among the holy and pure, whose light shines as the brightness of the firmament, the souls of our dear and beloved who have gone to their eternal home. For all the times that they tucked us in and shed tears over us, we remember them. For all the times that they took us on their knee and played with us, we remember them. For all the times they showed us how to navigate life's difficulties, we remember them. For all the joys that they have brought to our lives, their smiles, their laughters, and their tears, we remember them. For all the times we find them still with us in our moments of holiness, we remember them. And may their souls be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and their memories inspire us to serve you, God, in humanity and truth, in kindness and peace. And together we say,
Amen.
Page 10. Yitkadal,
ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון, וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי בקודשה בריחו, לעילה ולעילה מכל מין, כל ברכתה ושירתה.
תושבחתה ונחמתה,
ונחמתה,
דמירם בימה
ואמרו אמן.
יהי שלמה
רבה מן שמיים,
חיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל,
אמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. Page 13.
אני מאמין, אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח אני מאמין, אף על פי שיתממש, עם כל זה אני מאמין.
May there come a time when even death no longer holds a grip over us, and together we say, Amen. As the Torahs are put back in the ark, and the ark is closed, we continue with our services on page 654.
רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל ובתפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון
Amen. Page 656, Modin.
מודים אנחנו לך הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך והמרחם כי לא תמו חסדיך מעולם קיווינו לך.
As the ark is closed, you may be seated. Continue with the last paragraph on page 656.
וכל החיים יודו הסלע ויהללו את שמך באמת אל ישועתנו ועזרתנו סלע ברוך אתה אדוני הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות.
Amen. The priestly blessing is found on page 658.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, ברכנו בברכה המשולשת, בתורה הכתובה על ידי משה עבדך, אמורה מפי אהרון ובניו, כהנים עם קדושיך כאמור. יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May God bless you and keep you. Keneni Ratzon. May God's light always shine down upon you. Keneni Ratzon.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
May God always show you the way to a holy and peaceful life. And together we say, Ken Yehi Ratzon. Sim Shalom, page 658.
Sing shalom, sing shalom, sing shalom, tova v'racha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu, ve'archa Yisrael amecha. Sing shalom, sing shalom. Barchenu alvinu, kol arochecha beor panecha, ki beor panecha natat lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Torat chaim me'ahavat chesed u'tzedakah ורחמים וחיים ושלום. Sing shalom, sing shalom, tova v'racha, v'tov b'einecha, לברך את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשמך. Sing shalom, sing shalom, sing shalom, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu, ve'archa Yisrael amecha. Sing shalom, shalom, sing shalom. בספר חיים ושלום ופרנסה טובה. להיזהר ולהיבטל לפניך.
On page 660, we rise together. Hayom Tamseinu.
Hayom, 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 hayom te'anseinu. Amen. Hayom, 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 hayom.
can't end the service till you end with
וצדקה
the
וברכה
bracha.
ורחמים וחיים ושלום יהיה לנו לכל ישראל עד העולם. ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
עושה השלום.
Give her a big amen. As the ark is closed, you may be seated. Kaddish Shalem, page 62.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה ויעלמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וביום מחום וחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב דיברו שמירה ומורה לעולם יתברך וישתבח ויפר ויפרומם ויתנשא ויתגדל ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקדשה לעילא ולעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירה בעלמה דמירה בעלמה תתקבל צלותיה וברכותיה לכל בית ישראל אדם אברהם דבי שמעיה דבי שמעיה דבי שמעיה יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה וחיים וחיים עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום ברומה ויעשה שלום עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל
Before you leave, a couple of quick announcements. Jack Donitz, please come up. He's on our executive committee. A few important announcements.
Lots of people to thank. First, thank you, Rabbi Farkas, for your enlightening and happy sermon. Thank you, Cantor Barak, for beautiful music, and to Chris Arden and the whole VBS choir. We also have to thank the BEMA floor coordinators who worked through the holidays, David Braun, Joel Belinfante, Elaine Gill, Robert Titcher, and Ron Ryder. Thanks also to, special thanks from me, Charles Harris and Steve Block, who are doing my old job of ushering. Very thankless. I'd like to also thank the floor coordinators, Stu and Carol Solomon, Cy Silverstein, Mark Rich, Doug Workman, Amy Shamash, Jeff and Karen Goss. We invite those remaining at VBS all day to join the Sephardic service in Shir Lapati, which will continue through the afternoon, through Mincha and Ne'ilah later this evening. Also, Rabbi Farkas conducts a learning session in the Bernstein Balcony seminar room beginning at 3:30 this afternoon. Mincha begins at 5 in the sanctuary, Shir Lapati, and the playground tent. There is no Mincha in Malkin Burdorf, but there is Ne'ilah there. So at 6:15, we will have Ne'ilah here in the sanctuary, in Shir Lapati, in the tent, and in Malkin Burdorf. There's open seating for those services. Remember to bring your shofar to Mincha and Ne'ilah. Everyone with a shofar will be able to participate in the final Tikiyah Gdolah. On the Bima, Havdalah will follow, and light sticks will be available for all the kids. Please clear the parking lot. I see a lot of you already have. Please clear the parking lot as soon as possible to allow for the second service to get in. When you come back, please consider using Uber, Lyft, and GoGo Grandparent. And the valet parking is available for disabled parkers with valid placards. A few more thank yous. Thanks to Susan Rubin, Janet Jalaman, and their committees for all their work in seating everybody. Thank you to Lisa Weiland, Elaine Gill, Judy Geller-Wallenstein, Joel Belinfante, Heather Binder, Malcolm Katz, and Ron Ryder for their work on the Honors Committee. And finally, we want to thank Greg Orloff, Orit Rappaport, Janet Jalaman, Marlene Edison, Ilana Vorspan, the entire VBS staff, and most importantly, thanks to Rick Curiel and our Orion building staff for their incredible hard work. On behalf of the officers, the boards, and the staff, Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova, and Gmar Chatima Tova. Thank you.
Well, Shana Tova and Gemar Chatima Tova. Please, if you are feeling faint, this is now your 5th admonition around fasting. If you are not feeling well, please go to the nurse's office. Otherwise, we'll see you back for Mincha and Ne'ilah right back here.